I wanted to go over a few salon terms with you guys. You know, now, today in the hair world, there's a lot of different techniques and vocabulary we use to describe those techniques, and it can get kind of confusing. So there is Umbra and there is Balayage. So an Umbra is a graduation of color, shading. It's a French word, ombre, for shade, and so it usually goes from light to dark or dark to light, gradually going from one color to the next. Balayage is actually a French word, and that is really just means sweeping. So balayage is just the technique. So when someone comes in and asks for a balayage, they're asking for a freehand sweeping motion of the color, basically. Balayage also is more natural looking. It's more like a sun-kissed highlight, and it has dark through the ends to give it that PC separation look. It doesn't mean that it's just freehand painted on and left out of foils. You can actually use foils in a balayage. So when someone says they want a balayage, there's several different ways about going about it. So basically, instead of foiling with a comb and taking out the little pieces and separating and dropping out the hair, a balayage, you're taking a piece of hair and you're lightly sweeping. You're usually not going all the way to the scalp, and you're doing light brush stroke motions and bringing that down. And you can put it in a foil, you could leave it out of the foil. It just depends on the product you're using, and you get the same results. So I think sometimes if people see a balayage that's in a foil versus a balayage that's left processing out, they think it's two different things, and it's actually not. Balayage just means sweeping motion. So some girls, when they do a balayage, like to use foil. Sometimes we call that a foliage. So they use the foil because the product they're using, say their lightener that they're using, is going to dry out if they don't put it in and sandwich it in something. So they put the foil down, they do the sweeping motion, creating that very blended, gradual highlight that looks sun-kissed by the sun, and then they put another foil over it, and that keeps the moisture in on their lightener, and that will keep it processing. Now, if they were to leave that open, if they used a certain type of powder bleach, then that could dry out and it would slow down the process. Now, they do have special balayage lighteners that actually are sometimes an oil-based bleach, and so that actually stays moist through processing, so you can actually leave the balayage pieces out and you don't have to put them in a foil. Some people I've seen like to use cellophane with their balayage. Some people like to use cotton in between each of their layers that they do. But really just the word balayage means sweeping. And so it's just the sweeping technique of how we apply the product. And my hair would be more of a balayage because I have kind of a darker root area, the blonde comes out, I still have dark at the bottom, and it gives you that PC highlighted sun-kissed look. So let's look at some samples of a balayage. Now, an ombre, which you guys are probably like, what's she saying, ombre? Well, ombre is the French word for the gradual color, for shaded, but a lot of people say ombre. So this is an ombre. So when you come in asking for that, you're probably not gonna get what you want. So, but an ombre is a Spanish word for man. So it's actually umbra for French for shading. It's similar to color blocking, so because you're not having any of the dark on the ends, it's just all light. When you go into your salon appointment and you want to know the difference between an ombre and balayage, you know what you're getting, and you know that it's actually just the technique. And actually an ombre can be done many different ways. They're several techniques that you can do to do an ombre. There's people who backcomb pieces, there's people who grab chunks of hair and they put them in ponytails, and there's several different ways. So really, it's not how you get there, just as long as you achieve the overall look that matters. So when you see, if you ask for a balayage and you're thinking that they're gonna leave it out of the foils and then they put it in the foils, don't worry about that. As long as the overall look that you're getting is what you wanted, that's all that matters. Because every stylist has their own technique and way of getting there. Here's some samples of an ombre. So foiling is when you go through and you actually stitch each little piece of hair. So you go through, you can take big stitch, small stitch, micro stitch, you can take slices, and there's all different ways to foil hair. And when you foil it, usually they're going to put the color from like the scalp to the ends or wherever they need it to give you highlights, or if you're wanting lowlights or whatever it is you need. So that is called a foil. Now, on foiling, they have different patterns that they do depending on what you're wanting your overall look to be. So some people, you know, have a diagonal back, diagonal forward. They do, you know, brick layering across your head. So there's all different ways that you can be foiled. Usually the stylist has a reasoning for that foil placement depending on your head, the style, your haircut, your face shape, where you're wanting your highlights. So, you know, they may foil it one way one time you come in, and then they foil it a different way the next time you come in, depending on how your hair's grown out or what you're asking for. And here's some great examples of what a foil looks like. So I hope learning that vocabulary and the differences between those three things, the foil, the ombre, and the balayage, kind of show you it's just the technique that we use and not necessarily one way of doing it set in stone to get to that final destination for your hair. So I hope that helps, guys. If you have any questions, I'm always here for you. Please continue to add your friends to The Young and the Rest of Us. I appreciate you guys so much for watching. I'm having a great time, and I hope you guys are still enjoying all these videos, and I've got more to come. Stay tuned. Thanks. Bye.